Good evening, I hope everyone's well today. Thank you for watching. Or good morning when this goes out if not decided yet. If you ever feel that you dislike the establishment and you hate the government and you think you're going to be overly harsh, you're being too critical, or you're being too judgmental on how they're spending your money, you're not harsh enough. Every single day, I hope, is going to be the day that I'm proven wrong, that the government does have our best interests at heart and they do actually listen to us. Every single day they prove me wrong. I seen this clip going online. It was on X and it was a boomer liberal and he's really, really upset with Reform UK and Nigel Farage. And I wanted to play this clip first of all. And it will inform you just how out of touch these jokers are. So let's have a look.
It is extraordinarily raw and frightening for a country that has championed respect for human rights, particularly the most vulnerable, to be even contemplating this.
The most vulnerable. Remember that phrase. The illegal migrants, the people that come from France on the dinghies, or the vast majority of legal migrants, the Boris wave, that come from vastly different cultures from us. Those are the human rights that he's concerned about. There's no such thing as a universal human being. People from different cultures, different places in the world want different things. Now, if he thinks that every person in the universe is exactly the same, that's quite a bigoted and backward view of humanity, I would say. I wouldn't say I'm the same as somebody from Sri Lanka. I wouldn't say I'm the same as somebody from Japan. That would be inappropriate. I think that would be very, very dumb and very, very unwise. That's what the boomer consensus is. That's what the post-war consensus is, that every single person on the planet is exactly the same fundamentally when you break it down. That's not true. We wouldn't get stories like this. Or this. It just wouldn't happen, would it? If his theory was a theorem and was actually factual, then none of that would be true. But he's having a complete meltdown because we've got somebody who's actually saying what the vast majority of people think. Again, some people may think that Farage and Reform aren't going far enough. But the mainstream media is having a meltdown on the very, very mild measures that he proposed today. So let's just continue with the clip.
I mean, how on earth do we get in this position whereby a populist party that is riding very high in the polls and is making the weather, brilliantly led by the populist Nigel Farage, is pushing back on the Conservative Party, which itself has been quite prominent in this area, and a Labour Party, which is even David Blunkett has said, former Home Secretary, has no clear story and no clear answer on this. And it is a failure of government and a failure of the Prime Minister not to get ahead, not to anticipate. None of it couldn't have been foreseen.
That's where he's wrong. It's all entirely foreseen and entirely predictable and entirely realistic. The British people have never voted for mass migration. We have never voted for it, both legal and illegal. We have never voted for it. We do not consent. I do not consent. The country, this United Kingdom, does not consent. Now, I've seen this clip going on around the interwebs recently, and it's in my patch of the woods up in the north, and the north doesn't get enough coverage, so I'm going to play this clip now.
First time ever you will see ram bollards at Blackpool. Why have the police or highways put these big metal ram bollards up all the way along the front, the top of the north near the tower? Are they predicting that somebody's going to ram all the spectators next week when there's over 3 million people coming to watch the lights being turned on? We have never in the entire history of Blackpool had big metal ram bollards all the way along, all the way up the front. And then you've got to go through these gates. This has never ever happened before in Blackpool. Why would they put ram ballards here? There you go, ram ballards. Why the hell are ram ballards in Blackpool?
It's a good question. I am not overly surprised, but it's a good question. Why are ram ballards at the Brighton of the North? Why are they here? Well, it's very, very simple. It's because of the diversity. It turns out that diversity isn't always a strength, and these diversity barriers prove it. We let people into the country that have a complete disrespect and a complete alienation from the native culture. Rather than the government admit their mistake and say, yes, multiculturalism in a broader sense doesn't work, set aside, obviously, the multiculturalism within the United Kingdom itself between the Scots, the English, the Irish, and the Welsh. That's another matter. That's the success story of how multiculturalism can work. We get stories like this all the time, though. I mean, I've seen this story as well. I don't know how credible this is. It's in the Express. Home Office tenders for mass fatality tents. What are they expecting? Well, that's a good question. What exactly are they expecting? Why would they have to tender for this? What are they actually anticipating here? What do they know? What do MI5 and MI6 know that we don't know? We know that 90% of the MI5 watch list is a particular religion of peace. And we know that about a quarter of the entire Muslim population worldwide is actually what would be classed as Islamist or extremist. All right? So if there's over 1 billion Muslims worldwide, and you take a quarter of that population, call it 250 to 300 million Muslims worldwide, are of the extreme variety. We've got a hell of a problem, and we've got a hell of a problem because we're not vetting the people that come into the country, both on the small boats or more broadly from the legal migration. All right? So if you're not vetting these people from the religion of peace to see what their particular views are, then we have to do things like this to keep people safe. It is a disgrace and an outrage because nobody ever voted for this, and I want you to like and subscribe if you think I'm adding value. I seen a story after the Southport atrocity last year where the school children around the country are going through terrorist drills, knowing how to behave in a terrorist scenario. Even at the peak of the IRA in the 1970s and the 1980s, this was never a thing. When I was in school, we never had any type of thing like this at all, ever. This is new, alright? From what I understand, the IRA didn't actively target schools on the mainland. Now, I could be wrong about that, but that's my understanding. Or if it was so rare that they just didn't do drills in school on the mainland, but they did in Northern Ireland for obvious reasons. And then I've seen this story here. Okay, school children giving warnings to avoid migrants and to walk different routes on the way home. We shouldn't have to live like this. We shouldn't have to change our behaviours to accommodate the new arrivals. Any person that doesn't want to adhere to our cultural norms and the way that we do things in this United Kingdom should leave. They are not welcome. I do not welcome them, and this is a disgrace. I want to shout out Blackpool before I move on. Alright? Blackpool was one of the only monuments in the United Kingdom that actually lit up its colours differently for VJ Day recently. And now, when they turn on the illuminations next week, they've got to put these temporary diversity barriers in because they're probably anticipating something going awry. This was never the case in the 90s. You could not necessarily leave your front door open, but say, for example, when I was a teenager, I could go into the cupboard, I could grab my tent, we could go out on a Friday night with a few beers and just chill out on a random field, or maybe up the local castle, climbing on the top, which technically we shouldn't have done, but we did it anyway, and just chilled out and have a few beers with your buddies, and just chill out. Would you let your kids do that now? Would you let your kids go out unaccompanied? This is unacceptable. So when you get the woke libtards and the liberals saying, I don't understand, what's happened? What's happened? You've happened. This is all a corrective. The reason why we want mass deportations, why we want remigration, why we want Britain to be for the British, is because you've been smacked in the head 20 times every single election. We do not want this, and you continue to impose it on us anyway. It's unacceptable. Now, if you plan to go to Blackpool to watch the illuminations, let me know. Let me know if you think that these diversity barriers are a price that you think is worth paying for the enrichment that we're getting. I certainly don't. When I went to Blackpool when I was a kid, it was really, really fun. It was really, really wholesome. It was really, really nice, and it was really, really pleasant. The quintessential British seaside. This is unacceptable, and I want you to like and share this video, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Have a good day and thank you for your time.